October 14th, 2017. A strip mall parking lot in Chicago. A rental car idles at the far end, engine running. Two men climb out. They say nothing. They pop the trunk. Inside, a suitcase. $350,000 in Sinaloa Cartel cocaine money. It changes hands in under 10 seconds. No names, no paperwork. Just a photo of a serial number on a single dollar bill sent from a burner phone. That's the only signal these two criminal worlds need to do business. The courier drives away. Within 24 hours, that dirty drug money is clean, sitting in a cartel account in Mexico City. Untraceable, untouchable. The man who made it disappear isn't in Chicago. He isn't in Mexico. He's sitting in a casino inside a Holiday Inn in Guatemala City, sipping a drink, watching a confirmation photo land on his burner phone, completely invisible to every law enforcement agency on Earth. His name is Xizhi Li. For 12 years, he kept the Sinaloa Cartel's billions clean without firing a single bullet. How does a Chinese kid from a Mexican border town become the most dangerous money launderer alive? And what does it take to bring down a ghost that nobody even knew existed? Stay with me, because this story goes places you will not see coming. To understand how Xizhi Li became the cartel's most important banker, you have to understand where he came from, because this story doesn't start in a cartel safe house or a Wall Street boardroom. It starts in a Chinese restaurant, in a Mexican border town that most Americans couldn't find on a map. Li is born in Guangdong province, southern China. But when he's around 10 years old, his family makes an unusual move. Not Hong Kong, not the United States. They go to Mexicali, a sun-scorched border city pressed flat against California, separated from America by nothing but a chain-link fence and a dry riverbed. Mexicali has one of the oldest Chinese communities in all of Latin America. The local Chinatown, La Chinesca, sits above a network of underground tunnels originally built in the early 1900s as refuge from the desert heat. Over the decades, those tunnels became something else entirely. Sites for gambling, for cross-border smuggling, for transactions that never get written down. Li grows up working long shifts in the family restaurant. He watches relatives move migrants and contraband across the border with the same casual routine other kids watch their parents drive to work. Crime isn't something he stumbles into as a teenager. It is the air he breathes. When he's around 16, the family moves again to the San Gabriel Valley in Southern California. Dense Chinese immigrant population. Deep triad connections going back decades. In the 1990s, Li slides into the criminal underworld and becomes an associate of the 14K Triad, one of the most powerful Chinese criminal organizations on Earth. 20,000 members across 30 countries. By his late 20s, Li has built something no one else in the criminal world possesses. He speaks Mandarin, he speaks Spanish, he speaks English. He has triad connections in Hong Kong and across Southeast Asia. He has cartel-adjacent connections through his Mexican-American wife, whose family has ties to the drug trade. He holds a US passport. And he has the kind of criminal imagination that looks at a wall and sees a door nobody else can find. In 2005, he opens the Lucky City restaurant in Monterey Park, Los Angeles. On paper, a neighborhood Chinese restaurant. In practice, according to a DEA affidavit, a hub for drug trafficking and human smuggling. He is 32 years old. He has 4 children. And nobody, not the DEA, not the FBI, not the cartel itself, knows yet what he is truly capable of. But how does a restaurant owner in Los Angeles catch the eye of the most powerful drug cartel on Earth? And what happens the first time law enforcement actually gets close enough to put handcuffs on him? The answer to both of those questions happens in a Denny's, and it does not go the way anyone expects. June 24, 2008. A Denny's restaurant near the Pomona Freeway in the San Gabriel Valley, California state narcotics agent Rigo Polanco has spent weeks trying to get close to a cocaine trafficker operating under the name Juan Li, one of 17 aliases that Xizhi Li has been collecting like passport stamps. The man is a ghost, multiple phones, layers of intermediaries, no direct contact with anyone who could identify him. After weeks of dead ends, he finally agrees to meet. Polanco goes in undercover as Alfredo, a corrupt customs and border protection officer with access to cocaine. He slides into a booth. Across from him sits Li, 5'7", 135 pounds, 35 years old. Next to him, his 25-year-old Mexican-American wife and her brother. Nothing about him screams dangerous. He's quiet, reserved, almost polite. But at a follow-up meeting at a seafood restaurant a few days later, Li starts talking, and he doesn't stop. He tells Polanco he is moving 30-kilogram loads of cocaine through Mexico into Hong Kong, making $60,000 per kilogram on the other end. He has product going to Canada. He runs a side operation smuggling Chinese migrants through Cuba. Polanco sits across the table, keeping his face completely neutral, while his mind is running the numbers on the man in front of him. Later, Polanco will say, "It all added up to this picture of a very shrewd and cautious and sophisticated operator. There was a lot of sophistication in what he was doing, even then." The deal moves fast. Li agrees to buy 20 kilograms from Polanco's fake supply. July 14, 2008. Li sends a young Asian man in a black Mercedes to a supermarket parking lot carrying $200,000 in cash. Polanco's team moves in. The bagman is grabbed. Li's brother-in-law is arrested. His wife's charges are later dropped. And Li, he's already gone. He crossed the border into Mexico hours before the arrest landed. He got a tip. He always gets a tip. "We were this close," Polanco will say years later, pressing his fingers almost together. The case goes cold. Li disappears into Mexico City, and instead of hiding, he upgrades everything. So now Li is a fugitive in Mexico City, with no operation, no base, no network. How does a man like that rebuild from zero? And what idea does he develop in those years underground that makes him more valuable to the Sinaloa Cartel than any soldier, any assassin, any general they have ever employed? In Mexico City, Li meets Chun Chen. Smart, charming, from his hometown in Guangdong. She becomes his criminal and romantic partner, and together they see something the entire criminal world has missed. Here is the problem every drug cartel has. Billions of dirty dollars pile up in storage units across Chicago, Atlanta, Los Angeles. You cannot deposit it. You cannot wire it. For years, the Sinaloa Cartel paid brokers 13 to 18% of every dollar just to clean it. Li looks at that and sees a market failure. Then he looks at China, where billionaires are desperate to move fortunes offshore, but the government caps outflows at $50,000 a year. Li is standing in the middle of both problems, and nobody has ever thought to connect them. Here is how it works, confirmed in his own guilty plea. Cartel couriers drop cash in parking lots across 22 states. Signal, one photo of a dollar bill serial number. Within 24 hours, clean pesos land in Mexico. The dirty dollars get sold to Chinese clients who need offshore money. They pay Li in yuan through legitimate Chinese bank accounts. Nothing suspicious crosses any border. The money launders itself. Li charges 1 to 2%, guaranteed, in 24 hours. Retired DEA agent Thomas Sindrick will later say, "At no time in the history of organized crime is there an example where a revenue stream has been taken over like this, and without a single shot being fired. But running all of this from thin air has one problem. Li needs a physical front. So what does the world's most dangerous money launderer buy as his headquarters? And what happens when rivals send gunmen to put 20 bullets into him? 2011, Guatemala City. Li needs a physical anchor, a legitimate business with a real license and a legal face authorities can see without suspicion. He needs somewhere that handles large amounts of cash every single day, and nobody asks where it comes from. He finds it inside a Holiday Inn. The Golden Video Loteria Casino, tucked inside a Guatemala City Holiday Inn, is nobody's vision of a high-end criminal enterprise. Aging slot machines, faded carpet, the kind of place businessmen kill 90 minutes between flights. But Li doesn't need glamour. He needs a gambling license and a legal face. He buys the casino, he buys the license, and he buys himself a fourth identity. A Guatemalan gambling entrepreneur named Francisco Li. Drug money flows in as cash and chips. It flows out as business revenue, wire transfers, and clean casino checks. False passports create fictional signatories. Encrypted WeChat messages keep every conversation dark. He acquires a second casino, the Golden MGM, 2 casinos, 1 Holiday Inn, tens of millions in cartel proceeds processed every year. And he has a partner who handles everything Li refuses to do himself. Tao Liu. Liu is everything Li is not. Loud, flashy, desperate to be seen. He floods social media with yachts and designer suits while Li stays invisible. They meet through Li's passport forgery racket. Real government-issued documents, $15,000 each. Liu needs a Guatemalan passport. That meeting becomes a full partnership. Liu becomes the public face Li refuses to be, collecting bulk cash across the United States and entertaining Li's Chinese clients. Then, in 2016, gunmen ambush Li outside his casino. His armored Range Rover absorbs more than 20 rounds. Li walks away untouched. He upgrades his security and goes back to work the next morning. 20 bullets into his car, and he doesn't stop. He expands. So how does a man this invisible finally get found? And why does the entire empire unravel because of a mailman in Brooklyn wearing a US Postal Service uniform? May 2017, Memphis, Tennessee. DEA agent. Peter Ma is following a street-level drug crew on the streets of Memphis. He traces cocaine supply backward to the Sinaloa Cartel, then keeps going. The money leaving Memphis doesn't go to Mexico. It travels east to Brooklyn, then vanishes inside what looks like a legitimate Chinese financial network. His team arrests one of Li's money managers in Brooklyn, a Chinese immigrant picking up cartel cash while wearing his United States Postal Service uniform. In his apartment, a handwritten ledger recording nearly $2 million in transactions. His phone leads to a name, Jiayu Chen. Chen's communications lead to a casino registered to a Guatemalan businessman named Francisco Li. Miami investigators seize $617,000 from a bank account tied to that alias. They run the name. Francisco Li doesn't exist. The trail leads to 17 identities, 5 passports, and a US citizen named Xizhi Li. Li never tries to recover the $617,000. At his volume, it's a rounding error. But for Ma, it is the thread that unravels everything. 24 DEA offices across 4 continents activate simultaneously. All of it from a street bust in Memphis. Then the investigation hit something nobody expected. Li's partner, Tao Liu, isn't just collecting drug cash. He's donating to political campaigns. And in 2018, Tao Liu meets twice with President Donald Trump. The DEA watches it happen in real time. The FBI joins. Both agencies suspect Chinese intelligence ties. How a wanted criminal got within handshake distance of the president remains classified to this day. What isn't classified is how Liu destroys himself, paying $10,000 as a deposit for fake passports to what he believes is a corrupt State Department official. The official is an undercover DEA agent. October 2020. A 14-count indictment is unsealed. The ghost has a name on a federal document, but Li escaped once before with hours to spare. So does he vanish again? And what does a judge say to the man who kept the cartel's billions clean for over a decade? The arrests come like dominoes falling in slow motion. Tao Liu is taken first, the man who met the president, the man who handed $10,000 to an undercover DEA agent for fake passports. On August 3, 2021, he is sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Jiyu Chen, the Brooklyn handler, pleads guilty. 60 months, $2.8 million forfeited. Eric Yong Wu of Alhambra, California, Li's oldest Los Angeles contact. Li had convinced him the restaurant needed to shelter assets. When investigators search his belongings, they find a passport application in his name with someone else's face in the photo. Jianxing Chen, tracked all the way to Lima, Peru, arrested with direct Interpol assistance. 10 years in federal prison, $6 million forfeited. And then, August 2, 2021, Alexandria, Virginia, federal courthouse, Xizhi Li, born in Guangdong, China, raised in Mexicali, made in Los Angeles, survived a 20-round assassination attempt in Guatemala City, 5 passports, 17 aliases, tens of millions in cartel cocaine money processed through a Holiday Inn casino across a decade. The man who quietly became the most important banker the Sinaloa Cartel ever had. He stands before a federal judge and pleads guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to launder money. DA Special Agent in Charge, Wendy Woolcock, reads into the court record. Today marks the end of Xizhi Li's and Tao Liu's involvement in sophisticated money laundering operations for the sole purpose of supporting dangerous drug cartels. Holding them accountable removes bad actors from the activities of drug trafficking, helping to weaken the complex system the cartels rely on to continue their depraved business. October 26, 2021. 15 years in federal prison, $10 million forfeited. The ghost gets a cell. But here is the question nobody in that courtroom asked. If it took 4 years and 24 global DEA offices to catch one man, how many others are running the exact same system right now? And what does this mean for every American city being flooded with cartel fentanyl today? The court proved $30 million. In classified congressional briefings, the real number makes that look like pocket change. In 2021, Admiral Craig Fuller testified before Congress that Chinese money laundering networks had become the #1 underwriter of transnational criminal organization. Not a footnote, the primary financial infrastructure keeping the cartels alive. Over 100,000 Americans died from overdoses in 2022. That fentanyl runs on clean money, money that moved through parking lot handoffs and postal uniforms and casino chips in a Holiday Inn in Guatemala City. The casino is connected directly to the overdose deaths in Memphis. Follow the dollars far enough and those chips bought the fentanyl that killed someone's son in Tennessee. After the arrests, law enforcement documented a surge in Chinese money laundering networks across the Americas. The same systems, the same methods, running without him. When you remove the most efficient player from a market, it doesn't collapse. It just finds the next ghost. How many threads are running right now? Through strip mall parking lots and postal uniforms and casino floors in cities nobody is watching. And who is the next Xizhi Li? If this story hit different, smash that like button right now. It tells me you want more stories about the criminals who rewrote the rules while the world looked the other way. Subscribe